Texas is building data centers faster than anywhere else, 400 and counting. They are sucking up enough water for 500,000 homes, while paving over prime farmland forever. The Texas Agriculture Commissioner says this isn't tech progress. It's a war for food and survival. If unchecked, by 2030, these digital giants could consume nearly 400 billion gallons of water, leaving everyone else in drought. How did the rush for data turn into an existential threat? And why are rural Texans the ones paying the price? Texas now stands at the epicenter of a digital land rush. At last count, the state hosts nearly 400 major data centers, more than any other state, and the number keeps climbing. Dallas alone has more than 170 facilities, transforming once quiet industrial corridors into dense clusters of servers and cooling towers. Industry trackers report more than 100 new centers added since 2023, with dozens more in development queues, stretching from the Panhandle to the Gulf Coast. The scale of investment is staggering. In Abilene, the Stargate project, a partnership between OpenAI, Microsoft, and Oracle, has begun partial operations on a 1,000-acre campus. The facility anchors what is planned to become a $500 billion national AI supercomputer network, with Texas as its main hub. Phase 1 already draws 5 gigawatts of power, and filings show ambitions to quadruple capacity by the end of the decade. Google's Texas ambitions are no less ambitious. The company has announced $40 billion in data center investments statewide, with new campuses underway in the Panhandle and Dallas suburbs. In Amarillo, a $500 million facility is rising on the edge of farmland, tapping into groundwater reserves to keep thousands of servers cool around the clock. Meanwhile, Midlothian's new center already draws more than 1 million gallons a day, with expansion plans in place. South of Laredo, Energy Abundance is preparing to break ground on Data City, a planned 50,000-acre complex in Webb County. The project's first phase alone will demand 1 gigawatt of power, with total build-out targeting 5 gigawatts, enough electricity to match the consumption of the city of Miami. County records show a patchwork of permits and land deals, all pointing to a future where digital infrastructure rivals the scale of entire cities. Grid planners are racing to keep up. ERCOT, which manages Texas's electric grid, projects that data centers will account for half of all new grid growth by 2030. Peak demand is forecast to jump from 86 gigawatts today to 148 gigawatts in just 4 years. That means thousands of miles of new transmission lines, billions of dollars in upgrades, and a grid increasingly shaped by the relentless appetite of the digital economy. Water, once considered abundant in Texas, is now under siege from the digital infrastructure spreading across the state. In 2025, data centers consumed an estimated 49 billion gallons, enough to supply more than 500,000 households for a year. That figure is set to explode. By 2030, projections show data centers could demand nearly 400 billion gallons annually, accounting for over 6% of all water used in Texas. The scale is staggering, with individual sites drawing as much as 4.5 million gallons every day, matching the needs of entire towns. The impact is not confined to projections or spreadsheets. In San Antonio, while residents faced Stage 3 drought restrictions and watched lawns turn brown, large facilities operated with few limitations. Industrial users, including data centers, secured permits that allowed exemptions, consuming millions of gallons per day. Public records show 64 water systems across Texas were forced to limit household use to avoid running dry, yet the tech sector withdrawals continued. Largely unchecked, the water used for cooling these vast server farms evaporates into the air, lost permanently from the cycle that sustains farms and communities. The consequences ripple far beyond city limits. Over the past quarter century, Texas has lost 2.2 million acres of working land, an area nearly the size of Delaware and Rhode Island combined. Between 2017 and 2022 alone, 1.6 million acres vanished, along with 17,700 farms. The conversion is permanent. Once prime farmland is paved for data centers or solar arrays, it cannot be restored to agriculture in any practical sense. In counties like Franklin, nearly 12% of grazing land has disappeared, and in Falls, Milam, and Bell, more than 100,000 acres have shifted from crops to solar installations. With another 328,000 acres at risk in the next 5 years, the pressure on food production and rural livelihoods is mounting. The land and water that once grew crops and raised cattle now feed the relentless appetite of the digital world. On a cold December evening in 2025, the Lacy Lakeview City Council chambers overflowed with tension. More than 60 residents packed the room, with dozens more spilling into the parking lot, clutching handwritten signs and a petition signed by over 1,500 neighbors. At the center was Enforkey's proposal, a $10 billion data center complex on 520 acres of farmland near Elm Mott. It was the first of 6 planned for the Waco area. The project's scale dwarfed anything the town had seen, promising revenue that could multiply the city budget 50-fold and fund long overdue sewer upgrades. But the cost, residents said, was nothing less than the future of their community. Just minutes into the December 9th council meeting, the vote was called. 6 council members raised their hands in favor, 1 against. Approval came before public comment was allowed. Shouts of protest erupted. One resident, refusing to sit down, was physically removed by police. Another, voice shaking, told the room, "Nobody out there wants this. We feel like we're just having our lives ripped away from us." The numbers fueling the outrage were staggering. Enforkey's plans called for up to 15 million gallons of water every day, enough to supply a city many times Lacy Lakeview's size. The water would vanish into the air, evaporated by the constant cooling of thousands of servers. For a town already watching its farmland disappear and its wells run low, the threat felt existential. City leaders argued the project was a lifeline. Mayor Charles Wilson defended the decision, pointing to the promise of $50 million in annual revenue and the urgent need to overhaul aging sewer lines. He insisted that the economic future of Lacy Lakeview depended on bold action, even if it meant hard choices. But for many, the process felt undemocratic. Approving the project before hearing from the public only deepened the sense of betrayal. A month later, on January 13th, 2026, the council took the final step, approving the annexation of the farmland, despite continued protests. The vote made the project possible, locking in a future that many residents believed had been decided without them. The struggle in Lacy Lakeview became a symbol of the widening divide between rural communities and corporate power, a place where the promise of progress collided with the reality of what gets left behind. Developers now pay premiums that most Texas farmers cannot match. Land near major transmission lines and fiber corridors has soared in value, sometimes doubling or tripling in just a few years. Ranchers who once passed land down through generations are now forced to lease to solar or data center operators simply to cover rising property taxes. For younger farmers, the math no longer works. Acquiring acreage is out of reach, and even holding on to family land grows harder with each new offer from corporate buyers. Water access has become a contest that rural producers are losing. In drought periods, restrictions fall first and hardest on homes and farms, while industrial users, including data centers, often continue operations without interruption. The Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, the state regulator, is stretched thin. There is no state law capping water consumption for data centers. Instead, water use is tracked through self-reported surveys, and only about 1/3 of facilities respond. The maximum penalty for failing to report or for exceeding permitted use is just $500, a negligible sum for billion-dollar companies. Without a comprehensive state registry, even basic oversight is nearly impossible. Local officials and residents trying to track new developments are left guessing at the scale and impact. The imbalance is built into the system. Data centers and solar developers pay above market rates, driving up land values for everyone. Farmers and ranchers, already squeezed by input costs and unpredictable weather, cannot compete with the deep pockets of tech and energy firms. During drought emergencies, the rules favor those with permits and capital, not those growing food. The regulatory tools meant to protect resources are outdated, underfunded, and easily circumvented. For rural communities, the result is a slow-motion loss of control over land and water, essentials that once defined their future, but now slip away with every new deal signed. Texas stands at a crossroads. Every data center built on farmland locks away food security for a generation. As water and land vanish, these decisions shape the dinner tables of tomorrow. The fight isn't about technology. It is about who gets to eat. Share your perspective.